and I'm here in beautiful Killarney Provincial Park, Ontario, Canada. I'm here today at the Chikanishing Trail in Killarney, Ontario, Canada. It's an absolutely beautiful area to go and hike. The hike is approximately 2.5 to 3 hours long and 3 kilometers long. So let's go out and have a look around. Which way does this trail go? I have no clue. What's behind me, they're just so absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they're giant chunks of the Canadian Shield, which has risen up from the ground in this extremely rugged landscape. It is absolutely beautiful here. Now behind me you can see these giant, beautiful tree roots. Now what's happened is that these tree roots have come out of the rock and clung to what little tiny bit that they can in order to grow in some of the most harshest growing conditions on the planet. Now it's absolutely beautiful to behold, but I tell you, hard growing conditions for those trees who are involved in this. The Native American people have lived here in the glaciers that lift this area around 10,500 years ago. An intimate knowledge of the land and the skill of using nature's resources was the key to their survival in these windswept areas. Trade between the First Nations across North America was a really important activity which allowed the exchange of goods and ideas of information. By 800 AD, the Native Americans of this area were trading fish and game and blueberries in the Georgian Bay in return for corn and beans, squash and tobacco, which were harvested in the area. By the time the Europeans arrived in the New World, a rich mix of some 50 languages and 500,000 Native American people could be found across Canada. French explorers who came to call this lake Lake Huron in the early 1600s were novices when it came to canoes, local foods, and medicinal plants of the land. With help and cooperation of the First Nations people, this was essential for the European exploration of the fur trade. By the mid-1700s, brigades of Montreal canoes were passing through these very shores, powered by native, French, and Métis paddlers. Amongst the barren rock that we see before us are huge chunks of crystals. These particular quartz crystals were mined, and they're even mined up to today in certain areas of Killarney Park. In front of you lie the great clear waters of Georgian Bay, often referred to as the sixth Great Lake. This bay has an immense influence on the people that live here. Over 200 years have passed since the time of Samuel de Champlain, when he paddled out into Georgian Bay with the first European settlement right off these shores. In 1820, an independent trader, Etienne Augustin, opened a trading post at a nearby sheltered channel, which the Native Americans called Chikanishing. A small settlement sprang up, which eventually grew to be the town known as Killarney. Now, although this area is absolutely and completely beautiful, it's very difficult for me to express in any kind of way how gorgeous it really is to be here. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. The giant mountains that are off in the distance, the beautiful lakes, the islands. Nothing can describe how gorgeous this area is in Ontario, Canada, except for possibly coming here and visiting it yourself. Now behind me are the La Cloche Mountains, and as you can see, they are absolutely stunningly beautiful. They are large, giant pieces of quartzite which stick up out of the earth. They have to be seen to behold. I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but they are a beautiful quartzite white color. Now they were mined extensively in the late 1800s into 1900s, and there's still parts of the quartzite mountains which are even mined today. By 1880, the village of Killarney was an important fishing port. Each summer, families from the little communities packed up and shipped out to its nearby island to catch, clean, salt, and pack tons of whitefish and lake trout. Some 300 people worked in Killarney's commercial fishing industry. These were exciting times for the village of Killarney. Steamships raced to be the first into port to drop off their cargo of tourists and pick up the day's catch, bound for distant markets in Toronto and even Chicago. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, most of the surrounding forests were logged intensively. Imagine this small river carrying 200,000 logs during the spring log dive. On the island opposite this point, a boom ring is anchored on the rock at the water's edge. This log boom, tethered here, would be rafted by tugboat to the port of Midland. The last log drive down this river took place in 1955, involving only a mere 500 pulp logs. These logs that you can see here were actual remnants of old-growth harvest back in the late 1900s and early 20th century. They're a fantastic piece of history, just laid to waste here. Unfortunately, they are property of the Crown, so we can't just harvest them and make beautiful furniture out of them, but they are something else to look at. The towering mountains now distinctly defined and streaked with light and shade as the sunbeams struggled with the clouds. I think the most beautiful scene is Behealed in Canada. Those words, written in 1839 by Lieutenant Angot from Lochnaw, Scotland, have a timeless appeal and captures the evocative moods of Killarney's La Cloche Mountains. Now, you'll notice around me that all of a sudden we're into forest, just a couple of meters away from the rugged, hard coast lakeshore that we were just on of Georgian Bay. You can see that we're all in hardwood and softwood forest. This is absolutely spectacular how nature does that. Now, the one thing that I will say, there's a lot of around here, are bugs. There's lots and lots of bugs taking advantage of the high rock walls which are on this side of me and the forest which goes out in this direction. Look at the mushrooms on this tree. Those are really freaking cool. This is really cool. What we have here is that something, potentially a deer, must have gotten eaten or shed a lot of its fur at this site. One of the interesting things to find out what kind of fur it is that deer hair is usually hollow. When you fold it in half, it kind of breaks. It's really fascinating to see something like this out in the wilderness. It tells a real story of what must have happened here. I hope you've enjoyed coming along this trail with me. It was an absolutely stunning trail. I even heard and saw a few of my favorite birds, the black-capped chickadee. It was an awful lot of fun. If you ever happen to be in the Killarney, Ontario area, please be sure to check this trail out. It's a lot of fun. I'm the Wolfman, and thanks for watching.